build it, you demolish it. The legendary Homewrecker Burrito. Come build yours today with 20-plus fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code ONLINE.
Welcome back to another episode of Over the Boards. I'm your host, Healy Parker, here with head coach of the Ice Pack, Tim Healy. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing all right. I wish we had a little more season to go, but,
yes.
We're in Raleigh, so, it's a good place to
Back
be.
home. Well, don't forget that Over the Boards is sponsored by Moe's, so if you want to give them a call at 919-999-3999 or visit their website at 919.catering.moes.com. So we have a little bit to cover, a few games to talk about, but more about postseason stuff, so we'll jump right into it. So last time we chatted, you guys were days away from going to the ACC tournament in Winston-Salem, where your first game was Friday night against UNCW. But just before we jump into talking about the games, can you talk a little bit about the atmosphere of the tournament? Because I know that it was different than last year. For those of you who don't know, it was only like a one-game tournament. It's not really much of a tournament.
It's just a championship game, with Virginia Tech,
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about how the atmosphere was? Were there a lot of fans? Was obviously better than last year because there were people there.
There was that, but in general, this is, we'll call it 3.5 because you kind of had that one game. But, the third full ACC tournament I've been a part of up in Winston-Salem. And I have to say, all of it was probably the best one I've been a part of. From the fans to the officiating to just the even little things in the team hotel, that it was a really well-run tournament. People are into it. I don't think there were any blowouts the entire tournament. I think every game was really good for every team, so it was really exciting. And then you had, of course, the women's tournament there for the first time, and that added another layer of excitement. It was a great event and a great weekend. And Mike Wally, the commissioner, and the ACCHL overall, and Winston-Salem and the Annex Fairgrounds, they have a lot to be proud of. And thank you to them for a great weekend.
And the women's team won too, didn't they?
They sure did. And, they were. And what was great for them was in the final, they played West Virginia, and West Virginia just smoked them 2 games in the regular season. So for them to come around and get the win and not really even have to sweat it out that much at the end. Veronica Hell, who from PackTV, she made I think like 68 saves in the final. Awesome. Emily Peterson, who really started the women's program. I was pumped for her to get the cup on the way out, and she got game MVP. She had I think she had 4 goals in the final. So a really special day for them.
Good, exciting weekend for both of you guys.
Well, Winston-Salem can be nice to NC State sports teams.
Yeah. Well, so now talking about the first game, you guys had UNCW on that Friday night, and you guys, as we talked about last time, you had most recently lost to them, but you said in our last episode that you felt really confident as a team going into this game, especially with it being the first game of the tournament. Zach Robinson had the first 2 goals, followed by Charles and Riley Johnson to end the game in a 4-1 win. What felt different in this game versus UNCW versus last time you guys played? Was it just there were bigger stakes and you knew that you had to win to continue the tournament?
I think that, and I think the last time we played them, their barn is a tough place to play. Yeah. So I think you pull it out more to a neutral site. I think we were really particularly motivated for the game, and I think we really came out strong. And that was a theme in all 3 games this weekend. I think the shots at the end of that first period were like 16-4. So that was really exciting. We came out, we played well. I think there was a high motivation factor. I also think, when you look at this in the tournament, proved it, that the 3 best teams in the ACCHL were actually all 3 teams in our division, UNC, us, and UNCW. So that was actually a lot of fun to have a real meaningful game out the gate. And our last 2 full tournaments up there, our quarterfinal games, they weren't very close. That also speaks to the depth of the league, that we were able to put 8 quality teams up there that time this weekend.
Absolutely. So since you guys won against UNCW, you moved on to play Wake Forest in the tournament semifinals. Talking about playing against Winston-Salem and playing Wake,
Yeah,
it was good for you guys.
So.
The Pack can win in Winston-Salem.
So, yeah, but it did look like for a while that NC State things were going to start to come up. I've always thought, maybe we're immune from that by not being a full-fledged member of the athletic department. But for 58 minutes of hockey, it did not look like we're immune from them.
So talking about that game a little bit, what was the anticipation like leading up to this game because of how the last game ended? Knocking out the team out of the top 2 seeds.
For nationals,
yes.
and costing us the ACCHL
yes.
regular season championship. If you recall in the first go around, we really started slow, and I think we gave up like 4 goals in the first 5 minutes when we got a couple of shots on goal. This time around, we came out, we were playing fantastic. And I think, again, at the end of the first period, we had like 18 shots to their like 4. And so we came out fast. We were playing really well. We went into at the end of the first, it was 0-0. But again, we were completely dominating play. And so we felt, it was like a little bit frustrating to be 0-0. But again, we felt really well. We felt really good about the way we were playing. We knew we were going to wear them down if we kept playing that way. And then the second period comes, and it's like, oh my God, I've seen this story before. They got a goal off probably an ill-advised pass in a neutral zone, turnover and score. And then, it's a blur that game. I can't quite remember how they got their second goal.
Long weekend.
Yeah, it was, right? And so then suddenly we're going into the third period and we're down 2-0. And I want to say shots at the end of 2 were like 30 to like 8 it was. Wow. And yet here we are, we're down 2-0. It's like, this is the same script that we had 2 weeks ago, although the hole wasn't quite as big. But the guys still felt confident that we were going to come back because, remember, in that game we did score 4 goals in the third period. Yeah. So we felt like, okay, we were going to wear them down. We were going to put some on the board, and that the hole really wasn't all that big. And then the third period starts, and midway through the third period, they have a great player in Augie. What's Augie's? Augie Burkhart. He's 4-year senior. He's truly a terrific player. And he makes a great individual play, and now they're up 3-0. And it's, I think, 11 minutes to go to the third. And now we're up against it a little bit. And now, we're thinking to myself, like, really, this situation again? And you're seeing the shot counter get more and more uneven. And, time's running down. And then we get to the 6:30 mark. And we, at that point, they take a major penalty, a slew foot, which is a really dangerous play. Riley Johnson did a great job of keeping us cool. So we went up on that 5-minute man advantage. I'm like, okay, this is a chance to get back in this thing. If we can get 2 goals, because Wake Forest played a really good box and 1 on us, and they did a really great job of staying out of the penalty box. But 5-on-4, they can't quite do the box and 1. So I'm like, okay, this is our chance to kind of break through here. And get this, if we get a couple early ones on this power play, we're going to be able to get back and win this game. Well, now we're getting late in the power play. We're getting below the 2-minute mark, and we have not scored on the power play yet. And now it's like, okay, it's getting desperation time. You're seeing it slip away for us. For the seniors, we really wanted the 4 and 4, 4 titles in 4 years. Georgetown had won 3 in a row, but no one had ever captured 4 Admirals Cups in a row before. And then, we then kind
something
of
changed.
Yeah, something changed in a hurry. And what was really cool about this game, and this, to be honest, we were all running out of answers because it had been 2 games of this now. We were trying every possible thing. We put a little bit bigger. We pulled the goalie, so it's 6-on-4. We have 13 seconds left in this power play. We put a little bit bigger body in front and Phil Bailey. We've been trying to get Chris Solomon to shoot low. He loves to pick high corners and normally does a really good job at them. But finally, he takes a low hard shot. Bailey actually gets knocked down in front, and the puck actually deflects off Phil's head. Yep. So Solomon is quick to point out that the net was wide open. It was going to go in anyway, but now it's 3-1. Okay, and now we still have 13 seconds left on the power play, 1:43. Now we have some life. We pretty much, next face-off, a little bit, basically puck comes back. We get a good rush in transition, draw back to Hugo. Hugo finds Riley Johnson. As we attack in transition, headed up the ice, Johnson puts a great pass to Parker, who's just coming down the seam, and he buries. Now it's 3-2, and what the important thing about that goal was how quickly it came out to the first goal. So now it's a minute 23 so now it's 3-2 with a minute 23 left. That's actually real time on the clock, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, all the momentum's on our bench, and I actually felt like we were going to tie it up there. You know, the momentum's there, stuff's clicking. They take a timeout. It was interesting on this timeout is someone asked me, so Victor Hugo has had shoulder separation issues in the past. And someone said, you know, we're taking the time out and Hugo runs the point on the power play. And even though the power play is over, we're going to be pulling the goalie to make it, you know, so it's a pseudo power play. And someone says to me, hey, you need to check with Hugo to make sure he can shoot. I think he, you know, hurt his shoulder. And he did hurt his shoulder, not fully popping out, but, you know, and he's like, yeah, I can shoot. And Hugo is a great leader, a man of not a lot of words, but a lot of confidence. And you can tell when he has that confidence. So it's a similar play. As it comes out, we make the rush and transition in the zone. The puck comes down a little bit lower, but this time actually it's actually off a face-off from Matt Miller, but we bring the puck down low and we kick it back high to Solomon over to Hugo, who's at the point, and it was just pandemonium. Like, and the great thing about that goal is when you watch it, you really just see that net dent.
Yeah, I remember.
And it's and at that point it's pure pandemonium.
Yeah.
And what was crazy though, there's still a minute 10 left,
yes,
right? So
is.
you're talking 3 goals in 33 seconds. In a lot of cases, you're just happy to tie that and get that to overtime because, you know, even at 3-2, 3-1, you're like, okay, if we tie it, it's probably going to be under 30 seconds to go. But no, now you have 2 things. You have a minute 10 left. You have enough time for them to actually win the game or us to win the game.
Yeah.
Right on the ensuing faceoff, Riley Johnson makes a drive, and he almost puts us up. Wake Forest actually got one good scoring chance the other way. Eric Daniel made a really good save on it. But, you know, now we go into overtime.
Of course.
And the thing about overtime is it's 4-4 overtime, which is definitely, again, go back to Wake Forest. And they wanted to play that box and one. They can't do that. And I remember, you know, setting up the 2-person forward lines. And as I'm going through it, I remember Zach Robinson, who was the next line to go out after the winning goal. I think he was going out with Emery Oliver. And Emery's like, we're not going out. This one's not making that far, you know, in a good way. This one's buried, like in a confident way. And 4-4 also, we have some guys with a roller hockey background. Matt Miller, Alex Robinson, Zach Robinson, and 4-4. Roller hockey is played 4-4. So, you know, it's about, you know, how do you get the puck possession on the perimeter and then begin to attack? And so you had the perfect recipe for us in that overtime. You get Matt Miller out there wheeling in a 4-4 situation. Wake Forest is absolutely gassed. If you look at that goal, they really were having a hard time, you know, as Miller circles the zone, really attacking him. And then when he gets in, he just buries it top corner, and it's pure pandemonium on the bench. I mean, 3-33, you know, no goals on our first 48 shots, 4 goals on our next 7 shots. It was awesome. And it was like all the demons, pun intended, that happened up against Wake Forest. And, you know, they knocked us out of regionals 2 years ago. They knocked us out of nationals this year.
Right.
So it was awesome. And, you know, it was a truly special game. I think it's one that's going to stay with the guys for a long time. And it was just cool because different guys were trying to put different inputs in to see what the solutions could be. And we found them. Not with a lot of time left, but we found them.
That's all that matters. I was refreshing to it every 5 seconds because I could just feel the time going down, and I was having a moment as a fan. But
you should be on the bench when that. I mean, it was like, this is really slipping away here. I mean, you know your guys are capable of doing it, but you know, like, reality is once you got to the end of that power play and we hadn't put one up yet, you do feel it really slipping away in that opportunity.
There's only so much you could do at that point.
But they did it.
Came out with a win. That's all that matters. Well, we have one more game left to talk about in the ACC tournament, but we will be right back to talk about more after this break.
Welcome to the Rose!
We build it, you you demolish it. The legendary homewrecker burrito. Come build yours today with 20+ fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code ONLINE.
Welcome back to the second half of this Over the Boards episode. We just finished off talking about Wake Forest at the ACC tournament. So with that great win, you guys naturally, of course, in the championship game had to play UNC. School rival. It had to happen that way, didn't it?
Yeah, it really, and you know, credit to UNC. They had really been, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, they've been trending on an upward trajectory. Yeah. And they looked fantastic in beating Georgetown, and then they had knocked off the -- 1 seed Virginia Tech. But I'll be honest, it wasn't in some ways that surprising because, you know, we did feel, you know, Rich, the coach at UNCW, Jeff Volkman, Rich Brower, Jeff Volkman, we really actually felt like the best 3 teams in the conference were the 3 teams in our division. And in a lot of ways, you know, kind of we beat ourselves up a little bit in why the seeds were the way they were. And so, yeah, I mean, it's always tough, right? You're playing a team for the 4th time that year in a season, and that is really tough. And you're playing your rival.
Yep.
In some ways, though, it was the perfect opponent for us because you're on such a high after the Wake Forest game. Right? That game, by the time we got out of that rink, it was about midnight. It's a 1:30 game the next day.
And
you don't fall asleep that quickly after a game like that. Like, you're
adrenaline.
up, you're wired. So our guys weren't in right away. But, you know, our guys are going to get up for UNC more than anyone else, just as UNC is going to get up for us more than anyone else. And so therefore, that really in some ways became the perfect opponent, with the exception that they're a good team. And Will Douthit, their goalie, he's probably the best goalie to come through UNC. He was hot that tournament. And when Will gets hot, he can be tough to beat. And we get to the final, and we kind of see the same thing for the weekend. Like, we open up really well. It's 16-8 in shots at the end of the first period. Still 0-0. Go into the second period, some power plays. You know, I think we had gotten up into the low 30s. Still 0-0. We thought we had one at the end of the second that was called back after video review, and it was after the buzzer. So that, you know, I mean, but, you know, the way our guys came out in that third period was awesome. And I think one of the things about that game was we had Isaac Tyre for. Sorry, I can't speak today. You know, we had Isaac Tyre in net. We had, you know, what we call the rookie line part 2 together with Emery Oliver, Zach Robinson, and Phil Bailey. The rookie line part 1 was Riley Johnson, Parker Zarek, and Alex Robinson their freshman year. So it's a little bit of a little symmetry here. And 2 minutes into, you know, and the talk had been a little bit around Winston-Salem, like, oh, this is, you know, this is it for, you know, NC State. They're graduating so many and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, we're going in the third period. Our freshman goalie has a shutout going on. And, you know, 2 minutes in, Emery Oliver, boom, goal, right? Off a feed from sophomore Jackson Cowan, who Jackson's a classic stay-at-home defenseman. The amount of times I've seen him jump up into play this year, probably could count on one hand, but he delivers a great pass to Emery, and now we're up 1-0. And the other thing about that, too, is now we're making UNC chase the game. And so that opens up the game a little bit more for us, which is good. But, you know, credit to them. They don't stick around. And at the 6-minute mark, we have Zach Robinson, another freshman, bury it. Now we're up 2-0. And, you know, we get it. You know, Solomon puts home the empty netter and go home on to a 3-0 win, which was awesome, right? To beat probably well, honestly, our 3 biggest league rivals that weekend, UNCW, division rival, you know, Wake Forest, our tormentor, and UNC, you know, the other big rival in that. So that's pretty awesome, and that's pretty special to beat those 3 teams for the seniors to get their 4 for 4, which is exciting. And I think they also felt like they really needed this one just to validate even last year's as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, how deserving was this year's team of this title? I mean, even talking about the third period and how freshmen kind of stepped up to the plate. It was more about the whole team, not just maybe the Parker and them, as you were talking about, winning the title for 4 years in a row, but everyone deserved it because they put the work.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, you saw the D keep the shots against in the 20s. You saw Isaac taking care of what he needed. You had Zach and Emery both scoring. And again, you had Solomon sealing it with the empty netter. So, yeah, it really was a team effort, but it was also a lot of underclass players, which is exciting, too, as a coach.
And I feel like we were just talking about the rise of Isaac in goal a couple weeks ago, and and how you were testing him out in lines, and here he is getting a shutout.
Well, and that's just it, right? Like, and we had complete faith in him going into that, and he delivered, which is great going into next year.
For sure.
Well, and actually 3 more years,
Yeah,
right?
3 more years. What does this mean for the seniors who have won the tournament 4 years in a row? It's probably more than just a trophy. Wait, pause, trophy.
Well, yeah, that's right. We do have that.
It's probably more than just a trophy.
So in honor of your last show here, we brought in the Admirals Cup. So there we go.
Look
so
at
for the viewers at
so
home,
pretty.
so we have a good shot there.
It's bigger than me.
It is pretty tall. So that is So it's a great. I got to tell you, the ACCHL with this trophy and all the names going on it. It's actually pretty special. Even actually when I look at, I actually started, maybe I shouldn't say, I started my coaching career at a school called Georgetown Prep, and actually see some of my alums on there.
Oh, cool.
And we actually had this at practice a couple weeks ago, one of my youth practices, and some alums who were on the early 2000 teams were like, oh, there's my name on it, showing the kid, sending a kind of a picture to the other guys from the early. So that, so it's a great trophy, and the ACCH does a great job with it. And once your name's on it, it's on it forever.
Yeah,
it's just like like Lord Stanley and all the individual names there. So for our seniors to have your name on it 4 times in a row, no one's ever done that, and that's pretty special.
Came home with some hardware.
Yeah, so that's always a good thing.
Yes,
so,
we had to bring it out for the show, of course.
So I don't know if you want it up the rest of the show or.
You can put it back down. I feel like it'll be safer there.
Yeah, probably.
We don't want to break it.
It is pretty expensive.
Yes.
And I think the one thing about that day in general was so cool. Just for NC State, you had the women's team won the title that day. We won. Wrestling wrapped up the regular season dual stuff by beating Virginia Tech. Women's basketball wrapped up their regular season title, and the legend of Tommy White was born that weekend as well. So I mean, what a weekend around NC State in this campus. I mean, it truly was a light at red weekend.
It was perfect. So came home with the trophy. Then afterwards, you guys had a week of practice before heading to Columbus, Ohio for regionals. What was preparation like the week after such a big win, leading up to a tournament where you guys knew that there was a lot at stake?
The practices were good. The Tuesday night, we actually had some guys come back with a stomach bug. So Tuesday night we had a couple guys out, but that's not like the practice was still good. Thursday night's practice was good. We actually had the least eventful bus trip we've ever had.
See, I was going to ask about travel.
And I think that might have been part of the problem, right? Like, we left on time. We got to our lunch destination within a minute that we wanted to. We got into the hotel right about the exact time. We were able to go over and see some of the teams we were going to play that night. The hotel was perfect. Like, it was it was a beautiful day to drive up through West Virginia. So, apparently, next time, we got to pull out, like the nuns and Sound of Music, pulling out some of the wires on it or on the bus. So maybe that's what we need to do next time if it's going so well.
Well, leading up to the game in Columbus, you guys were ranked number 3 in the tournament. You faced number 13, University of Pennsylvania. Following the trend we have seen this season, the Pack started off a little slow in the first period. It ended in a 2-0 score. Can you walk us through the second period and where the energy from the offense came from during that second period?
Yeah, well, I don't know if there was a much different offense in the second period than the first period, right? Like, you're going to hear another theme here. Like, shots were super lopsided after the first. And, UPenn has had a really good top offensive line. Frankly, one of the best offensive lines that we've seen. They got a couple of their goals in transition. So shots were, just not finishing. I think we had, I'm not sure if we had any post or crossbar in the first period, but, the second period we came out hard and they got one in the second period too, but our offense was clicking, our power play, Zach Robbins had a nice power play goal, Alex Robinson had a couple assists, but it started kind of a little bit of just a put it on goal play by Parker. So, going into the third, we felt good. It was 3-3, our offense is starting to click. It just, it was a really good period. And, going into that, it was like, okay, we're in really good shape going into the third.
Yeah. And then it kind of seemed like time just ran out. So, unfortunately, the Ice Pack lost 4-3, ending the road to regionals and nationals. And I know personally, I'm probably not the only one. No one really saw this coming as a fan. So, what were your thoughts leaving this tournament, and any wise words that you could give to the team?
Well, I mean, if you play hockey long enough, which all these guys have, right? Like if you think about Riley and Parker and Robo and Miles, the guys that were part of the team for 4 years, right? We were Cinderella when we went 4 years ago, right? Like Liberty was at top seed at the venue at their home ranking.
Right.
We won that game 4-1, and it was kind of this magical carpet ride. And last year was okay. We were a top team, played like a top team, went to essentially the Elite Eight, and lost to the eventual national championship. Like that's probably more how it should have gone, right? Like 2 years we had it go where it shouldn't have, and 1 year where it really should. If you play this game long enough, you're gonna have moments like that,
right?
And that's why you can't let one moment or one game define you.
Absolutely.
Just as you can't have one moment in your life define you, right? Take the totality of their time here, and that's really what to me defines this senior class.
Absolutely.
And again, if you look at what they've done, 4 ACCHL titles, 2 nationals appearances, 3 regionals appearances, the highest ever ranking, regular season ranking that this program has ever had, 3 100-point scores, like the players of the year, tournament MVPs, like it goes on and on. Undefeated against UNC for all 4 years. So. That is really what defines them, is their complete body of work. Not a third period, not a game where, again, we had 54 shots on goal. In one-and-done situations, that can happen in hockey, right? Like, the U.S.'s most celebrated moment from hockey was a one-and-done situation against the Soviets, where, but how the body of your work defines you, not one moment in time defines you. And that was kind of the message for the team heading out of the locker room.
I feel like that's a really good message, especially for the seniors who had such a great 4 years, and maybe it wasn't the way that they wanted to, finish their season. But I mean, things happen, and they had a great run throughout their 4 years.
They really did.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, right, they've raised the bar so much that unless you're lifting the ACHA championship trophy in St. Louis, there's always going to be some disappointing factor, right? Like when you get to this point, that loss at the end never feels great, right? Like when the program is here, right? When we went the first time around, it's like, okay, we're just happy to be here. Oh, we got 1 win at nationals, we won 1 and 2. Okay, that felt great. Yeah. But last year the tears, and then this year the frustration at the end of it. That just speaks to where the program, and they've had a huge part in raising that program.
Absolutely. And I remember last year at our last episode, we talked about the rise of the program after your team's national run, and even though this season didn't end how it did last year, that doesn't mean that the Ice Pack still isn't in the conversation to be, national champions someday. Just because it looked different, how does the season's success prepare you guys for next year and the years to come, no matter losing the seniors?
Well, I think there's 3 things. I think there's one, the play on the ice, that's the whole body of work, right? Like people recognize we got knocked out on a one and done, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, put us on a lot more maps. 2, I think continuing with the off-ice stuff that really started with Eric Todd as, one of our captains and setting a tone there. And then, Zach Saway's work. So all of it goes together to keep moving this program forward. There's more recruit interest than we've ever had. There's a college hockey showcase for recruits up in Chicago at the end of April, where we hadn't registered for it, and they're like, hey, you need to come here. You're the most requested team that hasn't come to this yet. So we're gonna go. So we'll be in Chicago in the end of April, beginning of May. The college hockey showcase. So I mean, just things like that. Where I look at where we're getting. We had an interest from a kid from Alaska the other day that had seen our stuff. So, but I still want us to continue to be our talent primarily homegrown. I think we have a lot of pride in that, and we just have so much good talent in North Carolina that we want to continue to give it that platform.
Absolutely. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed being able to talk about this season with you guys, and can't wait to see where you guys end up doing next year and the year after that. And it'll
it's bittersweet. It's senior night for you here.
I know. I'm so sad. So I, have thoroughly enjoyed doing this show with you for the past 2 years, and we've talked about a lot. We've laughed about a lot. We got some trophies.
We did.
So it's been great. So
Haley, you've done an awesome job, and we'll miss having you next. Big shoes to fill over there.
I know. I'm sad, but it's okay. I will look forward to seeing the episodes next year.
You bet.
I'll be keeping up. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this year's episodes of Over the Boards. Don't forget that we are sponsored by Moe's, so give them a call at 919-999-3999 or visit their website website at 919.catering.most.com. We will see you guys next year on next season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go Pack.
Go Pack.
Welcome to the Bows!
We build it, you demolish it. The legendary Homewrecker Burrito. Come build yours today with 20+ fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code online.